So, all right, we're going to get started, everyone. Thank you so much for attending this morning. Just a few housekeeping items. Anyone that you see with a kind of yellow, black shirt on, those are our volunteers. Feel free to reach out to them at any time if there's anything that you need today. And I'm going to introduce Bodhi. So, Bodhi's a cloud security engineer at Nextuple, where he focuses on security architecture and threat detection in cloud-native environments. He has previously interned at Cisco and consulted for Deloitte. Bodhi is passionate about the role of AI and open source in cybersecurity. Outside of work, he enjoys mentoring newcomers in the industry and is an amateur rally racer. So really excited to hear from Bodhi today. Let's give him a little round of applause before we get started.
Thank you for the intro, and thank you everyone for making it this morning. As you said, my name is Bodhi. I graduated finished my undergrad in computer science and cybersecurity last year. I'm currently working in the role of a cloud security engineer at Nextuple. I have contributed to the ISC Square Certified in Cybersecurity exam in the role of a subject matter expert. And I enjoy building and experimenting with open source solutions, IDS, Snort and all those tools. And I'm pretty interested for the AI in cybersecurity currently, using AI as a classifier, for automating. And I also create a lot of home lab setup to try these things out. And after this conference, I'll be in Silicon Saxony Day in Dresden, Germany, and I'll be back in the States next month for BSides Pittsburgh. There you can connect me for an AI security related talk. So when we say we are looking for someone, a fresher in cybersecurity, from the hiring standpoint, it kind of breaks down into 6 categories, 4 of which even prior to someone getting an interview, and the last 2 are during your interview. So firstly, we look to have someone who has an idea of the fundamentals. This is just the base level knowledge for things such as operating systems, networking, the basic ideas of what these are. And we also like to have someone who has some hands-on skill, not just like mugged up topics out of a book for an exam. And this can be validated using your personal projects. These can include home labs, implementing open source tools. A very simple home lab setup, for example, can be having 3 virtual machines. You have a target machine, you have an attacker machine, and you have another machine to just observe, have an IDS setup. More on that, there is a session today at 4 for building virtual home labs with Cisco bottling labs. I think someone can try that out. And also, everyone I would suggest to at least try out, participate in a CTF, there's one happening here, or a hackathon somewhere, because that builds your experience and you get to know how things actually work together. Now, how do we validate the foundational skills? That's where the certifications come in. So here I mentioned 3. CompTIA Security Plus is the de facto standard which is asked for majority of the entry-level jobs. And Google Cybersecurity program is a new one, as well as the ISC Square Certified in Cybersecurity. The purpose of all 3 of these certifications is to validate the base level foundational knowledge that you have, with the addition of the Google Cybersecurity one having labs as part of the certification you need to complete to get it. So, okay, you got the certification, your resume looks fine, but how can you differentiate as a fresher from the other competitors? For that, you need to have a good portfolio, as well as a social media presence. And here I don't mean that social media, Instagram influencer, million followers, nothing of that sort. Just simply document what you're working on Google. You can write a blog on LinkedIn or Medium talking about what you have done. And for those who are not camera shy, you can even make a vlog out of it and put it on YouTube. And if you're lucky, that might make you a millionaire. Now, post this, you got the interview. Congratulations, that's step one done. Now, in the interview, what we look for in candidates is a mindset for curiosity and willingness to learn, because no one expects freshers or someone new to this role or someone switching careers midway to have solid knowledge about everything, how things are done. But we need someone with the willingness to learn, be curious about it, and the problem solving mindset. Now, what is a problem solving mindset? Yeah, one might come up to me and say, hey, I don't know anything about this, I cannot solve it. So the mindset here is more like breaking it down into chunks, knowing, asking someone for help with one part of it, figuring it out, then connecting with someone else for another part. That's the mindset. And contrary to what people think about cybersecurity jobs, those hackers in the movies, hunched up over their laptops in a dark room, multiple monitors, working 16 hours a day, it's nothing like that. You would rather have to connect with multiple teams, work on multiple projects, and be focused on collaboration primarily. In my organization, for example, I am part of the cloud team. We handle security, good to go. I have to work with the developers for the application security, secure coding reviews, so on. I work with the finance team on having the policies and standards. We are following the legal compliances. And cybersecurity itself is a very dynamic prospect, in which maybe you might be working on something today and the next day that system has failed, it doesn't exist anymore, there is a new standard. So you need to adapt on the fly. Now, one might also ask, okay, I like cybersecurity. I have it as a hobby. Why should I make it my profession? So the demand for cybersecurity is currently huge. In the US itself, the roles are growing at 32% a year from 2022 till the next decade. Entry-level opportunities are expanding. Google and Cisco have launched their entry-level certifications for this same purpose. And while there is a industry trend of using automation or using AI to eliminate many of these L1 roles, that doesn't mean that entry-level jobs are no longer. It rather requires someone who has a base knowledge of what this AI is and how to operate that new system. And as I said, every industry needs it. Be it defense, finance, retail, healthcare, education. If an industry is insecure, the industry cannot exist. And the global cost for cybercrime is rising rapidly. It is projected to hit 10.5 trillion USD by the end of this year. For context, other than China and USA, every other country has a lower annual gross domestic production less. So if the cybersecurity costs were a country in itself, it would be the third highest. Now, what exactly is cybersecurity? And how can one learn it? So we have a session here at 11 on how to learn cybersecurity by yourself. You guys should check that out if you're freshers or changing from some other industry to cybersecurity. So cybersecurity can be broadly divided into, let's say, 5 roles. One would be the research and theory. This is cryptography, working on cryptography, quantum resistant algorithms, formal methods, security, developing the security protocols, so on. This is a very academic role, and here you have a lot of heavy mathematical work, lots of innovation driven, and this is done primarily in the universities. And then comes the engineering and implementation. Here we work on security architecture, cloud security, DevSecOps, penetration testing, incident response, threat hunting, a lot of application-based work, getting the engineering part of it to do, not just theory, making work out. Then the third is GRC, governance, risk, and compliance. Here, if you don't have a STEM background, you can 100% work on this. Here, so compliances such as the ISO standards, the SOC 2 compliances, and here you'll be working on carrying out risk assessments, creating the policies for the organizations, conducting audits, and here for GRC, it's actually a bridge between legal teams, engineers, and operations. Then there is human and behavioral security. So, how many of you have heard of social engineering? Almost everyone. And that itself shows how a human factor can be a threat. And this is regarding that. Here you have social engineering defense. You have to design secure user experience, secure this is UX with security. Lots of design, but taking into fact the human factor, the psychological factor. Then on the legal side, we have policy, advocacy, and leadership. This is primarily carried out by the government body. These are creating national cybersecurity policies and frameworks like the GDPR and HIPAA. A lot of public sector roles, work done by think tanks and international cooperation. So what do these entry-level roles look like? I just listed out a few of the relevant examples that I see every day. So for a beginner, it starts off with a SOC analyst, that's the L1 I was talking about. Here one goes through logs, monitors them, and the roles here are for SOC L1, SOC analyst, cybersecurity associate, can be called many things. Then moving one step further is a cybersecurity consultant. Normally this is someone with 1 to 2 years of experience. They don't handle the technical hands-on work, but they formulate the overall strategy. Then there is security engineer in general. Here one works with multiple roles. These are SIEM tools. Maybe they can try using some vulnerability testing, app testing, and then you go on to the specialization part of it. Cloud security is currently what I am doing. Then there is application security, there is DevSecOps, the secure practices of deploying and scaling applications. On app security, again, there is a session at 3 p.m. One should check that out if they are interested in that. That brings us to the big topic at the moment, AI in cybersecurity and AI security. These are two very different things. AI for cybersecurity is utilizing AI. This can be for classification. So many organizations, even part of a project I'm working on currently is for all these detections. We are integrating tiny LLMs here, tiny large language models. That sounds weird. But we are integrating it to enhance our detection capabilities and as well as for IDS and XDR, as well as for data loss prevention. The benefit here is we move past the static signature-based detection, and it can also handle zero-day threats. That is a threat that has not yet been reported. So, and another huge benefit of using this is a small ML solution might potentially replace 3 SOC analysts as a cost benefit for the corporation. Now, what is AI security? So these machine learning models, these are systems in themselves, and at the end, every system needs to be protected. This can be in the source of AI model protection, which is more towards adversarial attacks. Then there is explainable AI, that is the AI model being able to rationalize per se what the responses are being taken and why it is being taken. And there are ML specific threats such as prompt injection, that is a pretty generic one implemented everywhere. No, so AI is actually the new battleground for both the defenders and attackers. So whichever side you may be, blue team, red team, purple team, AI will be referring to. And while AI is making cybersecurity faster, smarter, and more adaptable to threats, it is also transforming how we defend against these various threats. And while it is benefiting us in so many ways, it is also creating new security challenges, particularly for securing the integrity of the AI models themselves. If your AI is faltering, you might not even know you are getting the wrong responses, and without the correct response, your system has basically failed. Now, how can you look towards implementing all of that? So, from a personal standpoint, one can look into working on projects. Basic one, I think I recommend for all students to definitely add to their portfolio is to build a personal SOC, security operations center. You can implement open source tools such as Wazoo, Elasticsearch, that they call the ELK stuff. One of the major corporate enterprise solutions is Splunk. They actually have a community edition which you can try out, and as a fresher, it is a very good skill to have, since this is something that one might be actually working on every day in their career. You can use VMs to simulate threats, attack a system, observe how to do it. It becomes your playground basically. Another project can be to utilize the set of tools provided by colleges. This is a good set. You get tools like the Burp Suite, Metasploit, and you can launch brute force attack on another VM, and you can then monitor this and understand what's actually going on behind the scenes. And for the ML-based projects, which is pretty much now becoming a regular part of the curriculum for master's courses, is one can use a phishing email classifier. You can use a pre-trained natural language processing model to classify emails. Pre-trained models can actually be used very easily on free resources. You don't need fancy GPUs to run it. You can use Google Colab, they have a free tier for that. And you can also fine tune these using the Hugging Face on Hugging Face. Now, I think as part of your cybersecurity journey, if you have a mentor, that will be someone just a few steps ahead of you, not very. So let's say you are a student or a fresher and you go to a CISO and you look up to them and say, "Hi, I need advice." It actually won't work out. Look, they might know things have changed from their time as a fresher, and so it is preferable to have someone who is maybe 2 steps ahead of you, 3 steps ahead of you. Personally, during my undergrad, I've been fortunate to find a mentor in one of my faculty, Professor Kiran Gautam. He has guided me not only just academically, but even down to how I can enhance my career, what I should focus on, and he has actually helped me remove a lot of these ubiquitous terms from cybersecurity and from my career standpoint in general. How many of you are students here? Only one. Okay. Then I don't think it would be the right suggestion for me to say you can look for mentors through from your academic standpoint. There is a slide on engaging with the community, a couple slides down. In that, I'll focus more on how to find a mentor from outside your immediate surrounding. Back to the AI ML. So these are some of the ideas that I have in how someone can actually start off with. And this is not very difficult to implement. You can find a lot of blogs, you can find a lot of YouTube tutorials, and as I said, you don't need a PhD to get started. You just need your curious mindset, and you just need a web browser with internet access. You can try out tools like transformers, skitlearn, Gradio for quick setup. What these tools do is you can deploy a tiny LLM locally and as well as on the cloud using the Google Colab and the Hugging Face inference API. How to do that is mentioned here. So for those interested, please take a picture. And at the very end of my presentation, I'll give you a QR code with a link to this presentation. So here I have added quite a few data sets you can utilize to train and fine tune your model, as well as a few more links. And a few of the beginner friendly use cases that I identified were having a main theme enhancement. So you can get your open source themes like implementing ELK stack, Grafana, and Wazoo. But what would you be just learning if you straight up download it, install it, set it up? Not much. The work here you can do is by enhancing it further. The great thing about open source is you can piece multiple things together. You can implement a small ML with this for fine tuning. You can use you can have classifiers using skitlearn, and and as I mentioned, for the phishing detector, you can use a text classifier to identify which links might be malicious. And another case is the URL reputation checker. Here you can spot domains which might be a target for phishing, and as well as malicious domains. Okay, so you have done all of this. You have a good portfolio. You have skills. You have built your skills. You have gotten a certification probably. Now, as I said, it's important to document your code. That way, not just you, other people will get to know what you are actually working on. You can take a CTS. You might succeed, you might not. That's still a learning experience. You can break it down on what were the steps, what were the thoughts you had, how you were going about it. And same thing you can do for a home lab setup. Maybe you face some challenges, maybe you got some success out of it. You can mention all of that. The transparency is never bad, as everyone and anyone in this industry might probably tell you, before for anything to succeed, you must experience failure before. And you can start a GitHub repo with all your project codes, your data sets and so on, having a demo. And same thing for a YouTube channel. Document it, show what you are good at. And this also highlights your top skill, that would be your communication and interpersonal skills. Yeah, it's a bit different delivering for an audience versus on a one-to-one basis, but it still contributes highly. Now, since most of you are not a student, I think this gets pretty important. So I myself am from India, so I wasn't particularly aware about the local scenario in Buffalo. So shout out to Patrick Rost. He was a speaker last year and he's a volunteer this year as well. I've linked down his LinkedIn, so be sure to give him a follow. He is pretty much into the cybersecurity scene here in Buffalo. One of the local opportunities you can have is with the Infotech West New York. So here they have an annual event that is Buffalo Shadow Days. It's already happened for this year. There you can do mock interviews and they have a lot of content and workshop for beginners and intermediates. Another one would be InfoSec 716. This is carried out by Matt Gracie from East Buffalo itself, so be sure to check that out as well. And in case you cannot be part of these physical events, although personally I feel the physical connection with a person, building relationships, is very important, because it's not just about your technical skills, it's about how you work with people. It's a very people solution. Yeah, I think post-COVID, everyone is very much into having that hybrid setup and the virtual setup, but one-to-one communication is very essential, not just for what you are radiating about yourself, but about what you can get out of from the other person. And it is very important to collaborate, to learn from each other, and keep moving forward. So, even if not, these are some of the global cybersecurity groups. Cisco, a member community, they have webinars on the trending topics, they have a lot of posts, and they also give insights about the certifications. Then there is the Cloud Security Alliance. We focus primarily on cloud security and the compliance standards for cloud and hybrid models. And OWASP is a very good group for anyone who is looking into vulnerability testing or application security. Again, the links are here and look into it. Now, when I was part of the ISC Square CC exam team, very common theme that I got from the hiring managers was this: we don't expect freshers to know everything. We just want proof that they know the basics and can grow and learn quickly. So here, that's primarily a mindset thing. Now, this was one funny thing so employers are looking for tangible skills, but you need to have a way to demonstrate that. You can't just say, hey, I know cloud security, please hire. They need to see it for that to happen. For the basics, you can get the certifications as well as the documentation. That shows that you have put your hours in. And to have the problem solving ability, the curiosity mindset, you can document whatever you try out on your personal projects, home labs, and so how many of you have worked with algorithms and flowcharts? So you know how these break down a complex problem into small steps with all the details. That is very much how a problem needs to be solved. And that is probably the only way a problem is solved efficiently. That way you can demonstrate the problem solving mindset. For hands-on experience, again, your projects, your labs, maybe even a hackathon or a CTF. Communication skill, again, you can demonstrate using your documentation and preferably YouTube. It is actually something even I am trying to get into. Normally, I'm not much into the camera person, but let's see how that goes. And for the cultural and team fit, if you are part of a community, be that your local or a global one, that will show your collaborative skills as well as your interpersonal skills. And continuous learning mindset, I think for anyone who is curious, and I believe all of you are since you ended up here on a Saturday morning, your portfolio can show that how you are contributing day over day, week over week, every month. You are continuously working on something, building something. That shows a lot. Now, that concludes my contribution for this speech. And what are the next steps one can take? I would say one should focus on the skills you already have. Carry out a SWOT analysis. So you know how it's strengths, weakness, opportunity, and threat. It's carried out by organizations, but one should also do it for themselves. Identify what you lack. Identify what you're good at. Identify what you can learn, and most importantly, find out what you should stay away from, the threats. And please feel free to reach out to me as well as others. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. My LinkedIn is also part of the link tree I've mentioned. And also for Patrick Ross, he is very active in the community here. And it would be a good addition for all of you to learn from and any questions?
Is there a risk for beginners like some of us maybe if we're writing blogs on Medium or YouTube or whatever? If we're explaining something wrong or maybe not something polished, is there a risk that an potential or employer community will see that and be like, what is this guy talking about? He's totally wrong here. And
so I think
that had negative impact for us.
I think rather than a risk, that's an opportunity to correct yourself and identify something that is going wrong. Because you publish it, put it to the public will tell you what you are doing wrong. And maybe if someone is helpful, they'll also say how and why, where you are going wrong. So that gives you an opportunity to better that, rather than the people there will always be negativity, let's be fair. But you'll also get the opportunity to identify the problem.
Thank you.
Hope that's the answer to your question.
Right.
Any other?
Can I throw something on that just real quick?
Sure.
I'm a hiring manager in InfoSec, so I'll be honest with you. If I say to you, hey, I noticed your blog that you have this thing here. Can you tell me more about it? That usually means they don't agree with you, usually, or they want to know more about what you're thinking. Don't get defensive. Here's what I was thinking. Why do you ask? The number one way to shoot yourself in the foot in an interview is to dig in on something you're wrong about, or something you feel really strongly about but you don't have the data on. So feel free to just be open, be honest. Hey, this is what I know today, and then ask. Hey, why do you ask? What's the thing that drew you to that particular question on my resume or whatever? It's a big help.
I know personally for me, at this point in my career, I don't feel comfortable putting myself out there on something like that because of that risk. I maybe don't feel comfortable saying, hey, I don't want to write those Medium blogs right now because of that potential of being wrong and somebody saying, hey,
Well, it
what are you
depends on how
talking
you do
about?
it. If your blog says, like the speaker here is spot on, what he said is actually perfect. And if you frame your blog as, I'm a student, I'm learning, here's what I know today, you'd be surprised the people in this room who have so much knowledge, everyone likes to tell you why you're wrong. You can just learn about it, right? But if you don't put it out there, that's the big risk. I saw a couple of people shake their heads. The risk is if you don't put it out there, then you think you're right, and that's the worst. Put it out there. Just be, hey, this is what I think today, and someone will comment. Be transparent, man. Be honest, open, transparent. Be curious what he said. Yeah, sorry to interrupt. I just feel
No. Thank you for that contribution.
Thank you.
I just want to reinforce some of the stuff you said, especially about the foundations of security. I interview a lot of engineers, security engineers for Google. I asked a gentleman who kept focusing on, I have a master's in cybersecurity. I said, can you tell me the difference between TCP and UDP? And he said, well, yeah, TCP is encrypted. And I'm like, well, wait, what? And that home lab point that you put up there too is great because I ask people, maybe the hiring manager will agree, I don't know. I ask people, how do you stay current? And all I get is, oh, I read this blog or I follow this podcast. I'm like, really? You don't do it on your own? So these are great points. So please pay attention to those points, folks.
Thank you for that. Yes, please.
So 2 questions. But first, Anna, thanks for coming out and sharing this with us. I know from my vertical, I've been both a hiring manager and a teaching side to share some things that makes me clear, especially, which may be valuable. I did want to pick your brain on something I see with my students right now. So I have a bunch of students that generally they're very brand new to cyber, they're just getting into it. But I also have students that are new to cyber but not new to a handful of professionals. So I have people kind of coming in as, let's say, they'll come in early to mid-level junior of a deep domain of knowledge that's non-cyber, trying to convert to cyber. Do you have any advice specific to those individuals who are not brand new professionals generally, but just want to kind of evolve what they're doing to cyber?
So personally, I have a teammate who has that exact thing actually. So they are a senior developer, then they wanted to transfer to cyber. So they started actually working on secure coding reviews. As a dev, they know how to write code. That's their job. And implementing that and learning what is secure coding, how to do code reviews, those kind of concept is transferring the skills you can transfer from your existing role and combine that with the cyber concepts, the security concepts. I think that is something maybe one can just sit down and even identify. And especially with cybersecurity having like so many different verticals in itself, I'm definitely sure any STEM background, even non-STEM, can actually implement what they already know and enhance that.
Thank you. And the second question I had was, again, from the hiring manager from the academic side. What are you seeing, and if this is beyond the scope, you can go off on a problem, but what are you seeing with AI kind of eroding the interview process? And can you talk about some protections, if you don't mind, that you've been able to put in place to kind of fight that threat?
That's a good one actually.
Next up.
So one of the things I kind of, from conducting interviews from it, if people use buzzwords or just mention the topic a lot of times, it kind of means that they don't know what they're actually talking about. They just know the word. Maybe they just did ChatGPT during the interview itself and they're just repeating it again and again. That's just a behavioral thing I observed personally. Maybe you can more on
I
that.
have so many opinions on that. I can say a couple things in there, but I'd love to connect with you later as well. The reality of it is that it's still the same hiring practices. It's just that you have to just be more aware on the hiring side. So when I'm interviewing someone, it's always on camera or in person. I'm always looking for what are their personal tics while they're talking to me. I ask them deeper questions about how to do something, not just, what was the question earlier? What's the difference between UDP and TCP? So back in 2010, that was like a very common question for people going to the IDS space. So if you get to a place where you say, you ask that initial question, and they answer something that sounds a little textbook, the next question in is a little bit deeper. So, all right, so UDP, what port is whatever running on? I used to like to ask back in the day, what port does World of Warcraft run on? How would you find out? Because, believe it or not, back in the day, a very common ask for enterprise was to block port 666. And being in a SOC, we had to figure out why. It was because people were playing World of Warcraft on company resources during their breaks, and people wanted to shut it off. So just asking that next layer of question helps you really get into it, because they don't have time to ask the question to their AI. Yeah, but I got a bunch of more things. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, I'll add. We've interviewed people, and we've had the same thing, kind of AI come up in the interviews, right? And we've started kind of putting some, I don't know, trick critical thought questions in there, like why are manhole covers round? Like, some people may be able to pull that information up immediately, but you shouldn't really have the top 5 Google answers at the ready, depending on the position you're applying for. Rowan would probably know that. So
Yeah. It's the only shape that won't fall in.
see, so it's not a perfect situation.
I'm ready
but-
for my next interview.
There you go.
Like,
Oh no, because one of my questions is, how are you preparing for the next zombie apocalypse? So,
I got one for you. Ask them what port pin.
Oh yeah.
It's a level 3 protocol. It doesn't use.
So I'm hearing people from the other side of my generation here, which is cool. And someone who's 23, I'm trying, might think, sure, right? What are you guys looking for in us? Like, let me ask this question. What's missing from what we're bringing to the table? Is it the skill set? Is it the authenticity of the actual person? Is it robotic? Like, I work with the interns at work, right? And I'm trying to prepare them to be ready to go and have these interviews for a job. What is it that I can do for them, or that I'm missing, where they're getting auto-rejected, or, I've heard of them, some of them applied for 300 jobs and haven't heard back. What is going on where we're not understanding?
I think you're going to get You're the speaker.
I'm looking at the whole group, sorry.
I'd leave it.
I'll throw something out, because the last probably 7 candidates I've interviewed, I've dumped everyone. There's no drive, there's no initiative, there's no basic foundational knowledge. I mean, I start to get to that TCP question. I started by, you type in an email message and click send. Can you walk me through everything that happens? Because I'm looking for encryption, connections, certificates, log authentication, tell me all of that. And they can't. And I'm going, no wonder we put all this fancy crap in our environments, and yet we still get breached. Why? Because the people don't have foundational knowledge, but they don't have the drive that I've seen. I just turned 65. I've been doing this since 1982. Shit. Long time. And I just see people that they walk up and say, give me a tool, and that's all they want to do. I want to see you thinking about problems and going, have we thought about this? Right? Maybe we're going at it the wrong way. That's what I would see.
So I would probably summarize that in not just what to do, but why you are doing that.
Yeah.
And the first thing I'd tell you is attend Bonnie's talk at 11 a.m. this morning.
Yeah.
About that. The second thing I would say is depth. When you put a URL into your browser, tell me every step of what happens.
And they're only able to give you like that there's HTTPS. What's HTTP versus HTTPS? But then the train kind of stops there.
Yeah, like what happens at layer 3? What happens at layer 4? Do you know what layer 3 is? Right?
Of the OSI model.
The OSI, but I'm not saying you.
Right.
That's the thing. Can you walk the stack? Can you walk it up and can you define the presentation layer?
What's the response if they don't know?
I'll go on with the question.
No, like how's the reaction? Is it I don't know, but I'm gonna come back to, if I get another interview, I'm gonna go find
If
out.
one question blows your interview, they have serious doubts about you for other reasons.
Do you see that a lot?
Do I see hiring managers walking away after one bad question, or?
Do you see people from my generation?
So first of all, I don't think it was a generational issue. If someone 65 comes in and says, I'm doing a career move and I've spent my entire life, I spent 20 years in the restaurant business. So I had to move into cybersecurity. I had to I was you, but I was 40. Doesn't matter the age. So the thing that's important is what's the depth of your knowledge? How willing are you to learn? How good are you to work with? The points that he made earlier are all spot on. I would grab that slide deck from him and just review that because he's spot on there. And then, again, love mayo for my wife, so send her.
I'm going to do that.
There you go.
That's a good question. Was it also,
Yeah.
was it also based on the fact that they weren't being interviewed in the first place?
What was it? Say it again.
Sorry. Your question was also based on the fact that your colleagues weren't even getting interviewed in the first place?
Correct.
Okay. So, a couple different thoughts on this, and for the other hiring managers in the room, I'm going to hold our team accountable too. The communication with recruiters is key. I've had a lot of situations over almost a decade of doing hiring where recruiters didn't fully understand the cyber workflow because they're HR professionals. They don't necessarily understand cyber off the bat. The quality of candidates I received went up dramatically when I had almost a calibration session with recruiters saying, this is who I'm looking for, because they were often looking for very specific keywords. And when I say candidate, throw a whole bunch of keywords on their resume, especially when they say they know 18 or 20 different tools. I'm like, you are fresh out of grad school. I trust that you've seen these tools, you're not proficient in them. Again, it's what it is. They may be, I could be wrong, it's a bias I'm not proactively aware of. But when I've calibrated with the HR recruiter, say, you know what, I'm not just looking for someone who knows this stuff, but I'm looking for an authentic person who maybe coming at work and needs to be a junior. So a more authentic resume at that point does pan out. But it's also incumbent on us as hiring managers, I think, to coordinate on what we're really looking for our jobs. And also I'll say on resume, professionalism and quality counts. Even if you're not a cyber professional, that helps. Have someone take a look at your resume. Make sure it's very concise. Make sure there's no typos. Communication skills are, I don't want to say they're very rare, but they're definitely in need of greater and greater refinement. And when I see a resume come in, if I see one typo, we all do it. I'm not worried about that. When I see 4 and 5 different typos in their resume talking about previous work, I'm a little bit worried about not only their technical competency, but their ability to communicate effectively in the workplace. And that itself can take a career if the person is confident.
Got it. And do you think, so what about dry applying to jobs? I try to tell them that's a no-no to interns. That's are you guys picking out people, or have you seen more people who are reaching out on LinkedIn or saying, hey, I'm really interested, I'd like to talk about this?
100%.
100%?
100%.
Yeah.
If you've reached out to me and I know what your name is, and then I see you apply and you're a fit, that is 1,000 times better than if you simply throw that resume out and hope it gets through the keywords and hope it gets through her and hope it gets through everybody else. But if I know who you are, better if, as he said, you have a program, a portfolio, a home lab, whatever the thing is you're applying for, have you done it? Because the 18 tools resonates with me because everyone has 18 tools that they say they don't know how to use, but they don't use them in a workplace. Right? Can I fire off the right flag at the right time?
Sure.
You don't know that, right? So you have to just you have to ask them deep questions. But before you can get to that, they have to know you.
That makes sense. And I think you bring up a good point too. Going and understanding the HR process is a whole different ballgame. If you don't understand that and you can't collaborate together, then you're going to have that missing step.
And also just adding the last comment, as far as, I prefer to hear from someone I know about someone. If you cold contact me on LinkedIn or cold email me, I probably won't respond, and it's not because I don't find that content valuable, but because I also have to be careful that I'm not expressing some bias in the hiring process as well. I want to make sure that whatever comes through, everyone's got a fair shot at it.
Sure.
Now, it's one thing if I hear from a friend of a friend of a friend, I can pass that feedback to the recruiter, but because there's objectivity, I want to make sure that, all applicants are treated equally. So if someone does do a dry call out like that, I'd say don't worry if they don't get a reply. It may just be something on our side that we're trying to be objective to all candidates, especially in a public contact.
Got it.
Yeah, it's really a checkbox about your ability to interact with others and your aggressiveness.
Sure.
Right, something maybe coming earlier that folks don't try hard enough. That's an opportunity to say, hey, look, you went the extra mile, you found
And
it.
I'd like to pick up one topic about you say your friend with the 300 tries. So especially on LinkedIn with the easy apply button, it has been that if people see there might be just a 1% remote fit, they'll just it's a mass application, and that actually doesn't say about what you are doing, what you have, what you know, how you can contribute to the role, and on that having a personal connection, even if doesn't need to be that you know the recruit, you can still send them a note, shoot them a message, an email. Hi, this is my background. These are my skills. This is how I can contribute. I'd like to interview for this position. And for this, actually, there's Ron is having a session at 10 called the Shadow Job Market. That is primarily about how you can present yourself to the recruiter.
And go write a blog about the difference between TCP and UDP.
I love that question.
Last one.
Yeah, please.
Thank you for doing this. My big fear, I teach, and my big fear is that AI will replace all the entry-level jobs. Because I've seen a couple of articles about that recently. What do you think the chances of that actually happening are?
So for the automation part, AI is already doing so. You know, the SOC analyst is the one who goes through all the logs. That is, my prediction would be it will be going extinct by maybe the next 3 years. But then, like how when the computer came, the people who used to, the typist jobs went bust. Those who used to calculate, do the mathematical calculations by hand, that went bust. But it also raised the job of the computer operator. Then when the internet came, communication got slow. So maybe one avenue is closing. But for one thing I think for these AIs is, how many of you remember how that prompt engineering role became suddenly very relevant, like shot up with the 100K a year salaries, and it quickly went bust. But you still need people to fine tune the AI, set the parameters, and that is something where there is a lot of scope. Currently it's for the intermediate role, but as it matures and AI becomes more available everywhere, I believe it will trickle down to the entry level. Maybe not just fresh out of the school, but maybe even with 6 months or 1 year. We hope that answers it.
I'm not happy with it. Yes.
All right, let's give a round of applause for Tony.